I'm in my weird girl era again, taking random pictures like I am in some kind of photo shoot, creating music, writing poetry, journaling, posting these random creations of mine with absolutely zero context for whoever sees it online. Hey, it's Jade from Polymath Library. Let's talk. I've been finding myself really missing this like 2012, 2013 era of Tumblr. And but what I mean by Tumblr era is just like being so immersed in like art and creativity and vibes. And I feel like a different version of this has been recreated on TikTok, but that's like very a different format, right? It's like talking about it, kind of showing it as well. But I feel like Tumblr was so immersive and it's the question, it's like what side of Tumblr were you on? It was like so you could curate exactly what you wanted to see, and your own page was like a manifestation of this, of everything you are interested in and hyperfixations and what you were obsessed about. And you found like-minded people who are also just as weird as you, and there's absolutely no judgment. And you made kind of a community around yourself just naturally by being on the platform and by following different people and posting your own stuff and just seeing other people's curations and getting inspired by what they were into. Like, we have this common interest, and oh, look at this other art they are interested in. It was screen grabs from films with, just these like texts, maybe it was from the movie or something else over it. And I could just scroll for hours and hours and just feel so inspired. And then you go out into the world and you see something and you're like, oh, I should take a picture of this for Tumblr because it's so aesthetic, it's so vibey. That was also when MacBooks had the green screen feature, the green screen feature where you could put the little like flowers or whatever, the little like bird head, just those selfies. I look back on them now and I was like, oh my gosh, I look so silly, but it was a vibe. So I find myself missing all of that, except now, there was an air of this, like I talked about it in another video, this yearning. I think in that video, it was more about like pure adolescent yearning, like in the 14 to 18 stage of life. And right now I'm referencing a bit more of this early 20s yearning, where now you are out in the world and you're starting to realize like that your life maybe doesn't look how you thought it would, or that you have more control and you have no idea what to do with this more control in your life, that you're starting to realize your actions have consequences in the world, and maybe you're a bit lonely because friends are doing different things and you don't talk to the same people you used to anymore, and you find yourself out in the world. I've been missing this era a little bit, except that now I'm a mom, and the last 2 years I feel like I've completely lost that grasp on myself that I used to have. I was so sure in my 20s that I knew myself completely. There's, I think it was F. Scott Fitzgerald's first book, This Side of Paradise. And I quote this all the time. And the last line, the main character, Amory Blaine, who you've seen from basically childhood to now university or older, I'm not really sure. He gets into a cab. And I think something like this, I haven't read it for a very long time, but I think like this woman he was interested in or something had rejected him. I don't know. He's getting into a cab. It's the final scene of the book, and he sits down in the cab and he thinks to himself, I know myself, and that is all. And I grasped onto that. I was like, yes, I know myself. I'm an intellectual. I spend a lot of time journaling and working through my thoughts and feelings and past traumas. And I know myself. If I don't have anything else in this world, I know myself. Editing Jane here with a pastry sour beer. I also meant to mention the Sufjan Stevens song, The Mistress Witch from McClure, or The Mind That Knows Itself, where he says, A mind that knows itself is a mind that knows much more. And now, after becoming a mom, I feel like I have kind of lost that a little bit. You know, I used to sit in cafes for hours reading and being intellectual and looking out windows and listening to podcasts and just writing all these thoughts and thinking like, wow, what a world I have inside my head. And I've lost that. I spent my 20s deconstructing my religious upbringing through a lot of the help of You Made It Weird, Pete Holmes' podcast, which, getting into this topic of in my weird girl era again, I had stopped listening to that podcast for a long time. That's a different discussion because I started to roll my eyes too often. But I forgot what I appreciated about Pete Holmes and the discussions he brings out into the universe with these people. I started listening to it again today and I was like, oh yes, this is why maybe he's talking about the same concepts over and over and over again with the same male comedians. But it awakens something in me, and the concepts, just listening to people talk about thoughts, ideas, and concepts and feelings and who we are in the world, and that our self is like a vapor and also like the whole universe. You know, it's just, it feels good. It feels good. But yes, as I said, I was deconstructing my religious upbringing, making art with my whole body, taking long, aimless walks in a new city and just looking up at the architecture, at corners and birds and people and just the life happening around, and just appreciating the beauty. Traveling alone, like this is who I was. This was my sense of self. I was so sure of it. And now I have like the lines of sleep deprivation carved into my face. Lately, you know, I'm either working or being a mom or too tired to read even or play video games. But before it becomes just another discussion of like, oh, I'm not interested in this internet conversation of having kids or not having kids, whatever. Because if you're a mom watching this and you don't feel like a mom, hello, you are my people. But it's not just motherhood that have changed things for me. This has been a slow, let's say when I was in my 20s, I was full of wonder and awe. And it's been an inspiration. I was just inspired all the time. You know, like a sim, they turn blue when they're inspired. They don't turn blue, but their moodlet turns blue when they're inspired, and they can create masterpieces and write great works of fiction. That's what I was. I mean, I wasn't writing. I'm not saying I was creating masterpieces, okay, but let's say that's where I was 24. And slowly, it's just into nothing. It was getting fired in January 2020 on the day I was supposed to be promoted and having my whole career identity just ripped out from under me. It was the panini that just exasperated my anxiety and fear of the world and the things around me. It was global crisis after global crisis. It was not having any friends in my city. And over the last 4 years, like, oh my, we keep saying this, but like 4 years? How has it been 4 years? But it's been over these last 4 years that I've just lost my sense of being inspired. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of not feeling inspired anymore. I've had enough of this. And when I think about what I want my daughter to perceive me as, who I want her to see when she thinks of me, when she's older, that is what is motivating me right now. Yes, it's maybe 50% of the cause of how I've gotten to this sleep-deprived, surviving mode of life, but it's also what is inspiring me to get out of it. It's because of her that I've started to make music again. It's because of her that I've started to create again. It's because of her that I've started to read again. It's because of her that I'm sitting here talking to you on this channel. Because when I had that time and all those thoughts and feelings, I just I didn't have the motivation to actually do anything with it. I would make a song and just anonymously send it out into the world. And I was like, it will be found. That's not how the internet works, okay? And to this point, I wanted to tell a little story of recently how I am actively working to deconstruct these self-perpetuating negative beliefs and patterns of action. So I'm going to set the stage. I was at a Christmas work party, and because of pregnancy, all these things, and the panini, I've worked at this company for 4 years. I've actually never been to a Christmas party. So I was scared to go because there's so many people I hadn't met yet, people I just talked to online, and we don't really have any everyday like what I was used to with all my other jobs and all my other colleagues. You see each other every day. You don't need to have anything to talk about with these people because you have endless amounts of stuff to talk about. But I didn't have this feeling at this party. So I went, and there was some awkward moments. There was some moments that I was like, okay, it's this feels good. But then I went up to go, I had found someone to talk to. It was going great, but I went to go to the bathroom, and I came back and I was going to get another drink. But then one of my colleagues, who I do know kind of well, she said hi to me. I was like, okay, I'll talk to her for a second. And you see, I have to gear myself up okay, I can do this. I can have a conversation. So we're talking for a second. And before I had come up, she was talking to 3 other people who I didn't know. And they had looked like they were having fun, really animated. And then her and I kind of got into a discussion. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye, the 3 other people, they just went quiet when I came, and just they had lost the excitement from their mannerisms and their conversation. I don't even know if they were talking amongst each other anymore. And I was this feeling slowly coming to me that I'm oh my God, they hate me, or they think I'm annoying or ugly, whatever. All these things we think people think about us so much. And maybe it's because I had a whiskey sour or 2 by that time, but I felt the time slow. And I was like, okay, you have a choice. You can either do the thing you are so comfortable doing, which is ignoring the situations or waiting for someone else to be the first to introduce or to speak up. And it can just be another awkward moment where you have no idea what happened. Or you can be a little bit brave and courageous. And also, because this is the thing, I don't know really who I've met, who I haven't. It's so many people, and a few times I have said oh, I don't think we've met. And they're yeah, we have. So I try to avoid that at all situations, but I'm okay, you know what? Sometimes it just has to be like that. So I turned to the 3 of them and I was like, hey, I don't think we've met. Hi. And immediately they just all started smiling. Oh my gosh, it's you. We've heard about you. It's so nice to meet you. And I had 3 new friends from that point. And I was like, oh my gosh, is it this easy? Is it this easy? Okay, they were being a little bit shy and awkward, but I think they're, whatever. But it can be this easy to just expand and grow and just take little steps to feel like you are a part of the world around you. I think that's another thing. I don't feel like I'm a part of the world around me anymore because I've been inside so much. And even now it's winter, it's snowing, it's icy, there's smog outside. It's just easier to be home. But I have a toddler. I can't just be home inside all the time. How does this relate to Weird Girl era? All that to say, it's a new year, and if you are anyway inclined about astrology, Pluto has been going through Capricorn. What that means is that if you the wheel of astrology, okay, there's Pluto slowly making its way around this system called the astrological, wheel. And it's been like the wheel divided into 12 houses, every zodiac sign, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, let's name all the earth signs. They each have, if you do, I'm going to simplify it. They each have a slice of the pie. Let's put it that way. So Pluto moves pretty slowly, 20 years or so to go from one sign to the next. Pluto has been going through Capricorn. So you have your birth chart and you have, some planets fall in one sign or another. This is the slice of the wheel, okay? This is Capricorn's slice. And I have maybe 5 planets there. I think people born at the same era as me also have a lot of planets. So what happens when Pluto, goes like conjuncts the planet? Basically, it just is in the same line at the same time. And it's slowly moving around. So it's like, hello, planets. It's waving to the planets as it goes by. The ones in your birth chart. So there's the planets in your chart that were there, like where they were when you were born. And there's the current ones that are happening. Okay, so you can look at a astrological map of the two at once. So Pluto is the planet of destruction, death, rebirth, just completely disrupting things and making these life cycles. Women Who Run with Wolves. I recommend that book. The last maybe 15 years, Pluto has been bulldozing its way past a lot of my planets in the house of Capricorn, which is very like, if you think of a moat around a castle or a fortress wall, it's protecting the castle. That is Capricorn. The wall is Capricorn. And Pluto has been testing those walls in my life for the last 15 years. And if you're around the same age as me, like born early 90s, it's been doing the same for you. And it just has now moved into Aquarius. If you've ever heard Age of Aquarius, that's what's happening now. And I feel like I can finally take a deep breath. And with that deep breath, at one time I wrote a poem. So I also grew up religious. In the time between the Old Testament, which is like the, really old part, with all the names and the Moses and the, and the New Testament that has Jesus, there was a gap. And the story goes that the people who were speaking to God, they didn't hear from him for 2,000 years, something. I don't know how long it was. For a long time. They thought God had abandoned them. And then comes, the savior of the world. So I wrote a poem and it goes something like this. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like a 3-line poem. God took a breath. I've always meant to rewrite this because it doesn't quite make sense yet. But by God took a breath, I meant like God inhaled. Editing Jade here again. The poem was God inhaled. 400 years of silence I mistook as anger. Basically, is that in this inhale, you can't talk, everything is paused. You feel maybe abandoned, like nothing is happening. And then there's an exhale and you feel so at peace and free. And you realize God wasn't ignoring you. The universe wasn't ignoring you. It was just inhaling so it could exhale and give you life. So that's where I am now. I'm feeling like things are, it was also just a new moon, okay, which is like the full moon. Like imagine the moon is like a cup and it gets full of water. That's the full moon. And then it just spills out. The new moon, it's like the empty cup. I'm feeling this like, and maybe you are too. That's why I'm sharing. I'm not just sharing to be like, this is how I feel. I'm sharing it because I know I'm not the only one. And I feel like it's hard to have these kind of conversations, in real life, IRL. So I'm feeling like it's finally time where I can exhale and look around me and realize that there's so much like fertile soil around, and that I can start reading and being inspired again. And that right now it's just really a time to get into art. Okay, hold on. I'm going to show you one book. Actually, I'm going to show you 2 books. And then we're going to go. Okay. The first book, it's not in English, but it's not that my copy is not in English, but it's a translated version, so you're going to be able to find the English version quite easily. A Book Full of Joy. 365 ideas for like a nice day. It's a children's book, but I had to get it. For every day of the year, it has an activity. So I recommend this book, even if you don't have any children or you're not a child. Get this book. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. It's so cute. So I recommend this book. Look, make macaroni necklaces. Who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to do that? Or, yeah, sit in a hammock and read. And the second is because I've just started listening to You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes again. And he mentions Ram Dass like at least once an episode. And it's like when you hear about this book, then you start to see it everywhere, and it kind of like itches on your conscience. So I finally bought it like, I think in 2020 actually. Yeah, but it's Be Here Now by Ram Dass. The first part is about his story, but the good part is this, which is just art and psychedelic thoughts. Okay, let's just pick one. I'm going to read for you. Okay. This is what it looks like. Now, once I had tasted of that universe where we are all us, this place, that's the sea of love. Boy, I'm going to live in it. I'm going to be it. I'm going to submerge myself in it. You gotta protect yourself. From what? Love? Once you know there's no place to hide, then you wonder, who are you hiding from anyway? There's a Sikh story about a holy man who gave 2 men each a chicken and said, go kill them where no one can see. One guy went behind the fence and killed the chicken. The other guy walked around for 2 days and came back with the chicken. The holy man said, you didn't kill the chicken? The guy said, well, everywhere I go, the chicken sees. I recommend, or if you know someone who has this book, maybe ask them if you can borrow it. That being said, I am in my weird girl era. I invite you to be in your weird girl era. Make art, post cringy stuff. This year, I want to be cringy, or not be afraid of being cringy, and also embrace the fangirling and the just being immersed in art. And then the important next step. What I was missing, well, no, I wasn't missing it before, but I didn't value it before. The next step is creating your own art, because a weird girl, she creates and she doesn't care if anyone else sees it. She just is herself. And I call it weird girl because it's not that she thinks she's trying to be weird, but people kind of think that girl's weird. Once again, I have taken a very small idea, rambled a bunch of nonsense, and hope you got my point. So if you were catching the vibe I was throwing down, hit the like button, leave a comment. Are you in your weird girl era? Have you ever had a weird girl era? Have you been a weird girl all your life? Have you been riding on the bus home in middle school and reading, and a girl turns around and tells you, you read too much for a girl? Has that ever happened to you? Because it's happened to me. And yeah, let me know. And I will see you all next time. Bye.